Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and in today's video I'm going to share with you all my December book haul and my December wrap-up. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my book haul. I didn't buy any books in December, but I did receive 3 books from Sourcebooks. Thank you to Beth from Sourcebooks for sending these books to me. In the package that I received, I got 2 finished copies and 1 ARC. The first finished copy that I received is Before I Let Go by Marieke Nijkamp. This author is the same author of This Is Where It Ends, which I haven't read that book yet, but it is a book that I have been interested in for a while now. This book follows Corey and Kyra, who are best friends and inseparable. They live in this small Alaskan town, but one day Corey's family has to move away. This book starts off with Corey returning home to visit Kyra, but days before she is expected to return back to her hometown to visit Kyra, Kyra ends up passing away. The reaction of the community to Kyra's death is really strange, and Corey knows that there is something wrong behind Kyra's death, and she is determined to figure out the truth of everything. I've heard that this book does have Own Voices disability representation, and I've also heard that the main character identifies as being a member of the LGBT plus community, but at the moment I can't remember what she identifies as. When I do figure that out, I will insert a text in the video to let you all know what the main character identifies as. This book sounds really interesting and I can't wait to get into it. The next book that I received is As You Wish by Chelsea Sedoti. This book takes place in this town where on your 18th birthday you receive this wish, and whatever you wish for, that wish will come true. However, when it comes to wishing, there are always consequences. This book follows Eldon, whose 18th birthday is coming up, and he has to figure out what he wants to wish for. And the last book for my December book haul is Furyborn by Legrand. This is actually an ARC. This book isn't coming out until May 22nd, and I actually haven't heard of this book before until I saw Monica from She Might Be Monica mention this in one of her recent videos. This book takes place in 2 different timelines following 2 different main characters, so somehow their role in the story is interconnected with one another. One of these women is named Riel, and she accidentally exposes her ability to perform the 7 different types of elemental magic. There's this prophecy about 2 different types of queens, a queen of light and salvation and a queen of blood and destruction. And these queens are the only people who are able to perform the 7 different types of elemental magic. So Riel has to prove that she is a sun queen, the queen of light and salvation. In order to prove that, she goes through these trials to test her magic, and if she fails, she ends up being executed. The second main character is Eliana, and she lives 1,000 years after Riel. She uses violence to keep her family alive, and in the city that she's living, a lot of women are disappearing, including her own mother, and she ends up joining this rebel captain on a dangerous mission. That's pretty much all I know about her story. I'm very excited to see how these 2 stories intersect, and I can't wait to read this book. That is the end of my December book haul. Now I'm going to go into my wrap-up, but before I go into my December wrap-up, I want to talk about the one book that I read between the months of September and December. As some of you may know, I studied abroad during this past fall semester, and while I studied abroad, reading and booktube just wasn't a priority of mine. I did expect to read a handful of books while I was abroad, but unfortunately I only ended up reading 1 book, and that book is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie, and I actually listened to it as an audiobook. This book follows a bisexual main character named Monty who embarks on a grand tour of Europe with his best friend named Percy and his sister Felicity. And during this grand tour, shenanigans and adventures ensue. It took me about a month to get through this audiobook, and it wasn't because this book wasn't interesting. I did really like it, but because it took me so long to read, I didn't enjoy it as much as I probably would have if I read it in a shorter amount of time. What I really liked about this book is the writing. I love the voice of Monty's character. I thought he was really funny and sassy. I love the romance, the action, and the commentary on social issues. Aside from the fact that it took me so long to listen to this book, that kind of brought my rating down. Another thing that knocked down a star for my rating of this book is that I think the plot dragged a little, especially in the middle of the book. I just felt like it was a little bit slow and it could have been sped up a little bit more. Other than that, I really enjoyed the story. I also really enjoyed the narrator's voice. I thought he did a really great job at narrating the story, and overall I rated this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Now I'm actually going to get into my December wrap-up. In December I read 3.5 books. I didn't get back to the US until December 20th, so all these books that I'm talking about are books that I read like after December 20th. I'm pretty happy with the amount of reading I got done in the last couple weeks of December before the year ended. The first book that I finished is They Both Die at the End by Silvera. This book follows Mateo and Rufus, who connect through this app after being alerted that they are both going to die within the next 24 hours. So unfortunately, this book didn't hook me the way that Silvera's previous books did. The system that alerts people whether they are going to die within the next 24 hours is called Deathcast. You just kind of have to go along with the system because it's not super well explained how the system works in this book. Personally, I would have liked to have a little bit more information information about Death Cast, but it's not something that ruined my enjoyment of the book. In this book, there are some chapters told in the point of view of other minor characters that the two main characters encounter along the way. I really enjoyed those chapters. It gave me a similar vibe of The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. That book is also told in one day, and if you enjoyed that book, I think you might enjoy this book as well. I really enjoyed those chapters because it shows how our actions can affect the lives of others. No matter how small and insignificant your action may seem, it does have an impact on other people's lives in ways that you wouldn't even think. And those chapters also show how Death Cast can affect the lives of people who didn't even receive the call that they are going to die by the end of the day. I did find the story to drag a little bit, which is why I didn't enjoy it as much as Adam's previous book. And unfortunately, I just wasn't as emotionally impacted by this story as I was expecting. I do like that this book doesn't focus on death, instead it focuses on living. This book made me think and reflect on my own life. It made me think and question whether I am living my best life, whether I am making the best of every single minute of my life, and if I'm not, what can I do to change that? Overall, I still enjoyed this book. It just wasn't my favorite, and I would definitely still recommend it. Adam Silvera is amazing. My favorite book of Adam Silvera's is definitely History Is All You Left Me. I rated this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished is Warcross by Marie Lu. This book follows our main character, Amika Chen, who is a bounty hunter, which means that she hunts down people who bet illegally on this game called Warcross. One day, as an attempt to make money, she ends up glitching herself into the game during the official championship. She thinks she's going to get arrested, but instead the creator of the game reaches out to her and offers her a job opportunity. This is an action-packed book that I found to be really gripping. I thought the world building was fantastic. Warcross is like a virtual reality game. I love seeing how virtual reality and reality was combined and used in everyday life. The whole virtual reality aspect did make me think of Ready Player One, which is one of my favorite books, but I do love the way that Marie Lu took this virtual reality aspect and made it her own. I thought she added a lot of really unique elements in it that I haven't read before. Warcross is basically a capture the flag game, which sounds really simple, but seeing the way that it was played in this book was just so much fun and so cool to read about. Amika is a very likable, witty, and clever character. I love the different types of representation that we had in this book. There were side characters from all around the world. There's a major side character who's disabled, and there were two other male side characters who were in a relationship with one another. And Amika is also Chinese American. I also really enjoyed the romance scenes in this book. The romance didn't feel rushed, and it wasn't like a huge focus of the story. It was a bit slow burning, which is exactly how I love romance scenes to be written. I also love the group dynamic between Amika and the Phoenix Riders. However, I still feel like I didn't really get to know the individual members of the Phoenix Riders very well, so I look forward to hopefully seeing more of the group dynamic and learning more about the individual members in the sequel. I ended up rating this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The last book that I actually finished in December is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This book follows Makani Young, who moves from Hawaii to live in Nebraska with her grandmother. In the town that she is living in, slowly students from her high school are being killed off in a very gory and grotesque way. Unfortunately, I found this book to be disappointing. Despite all the brutal killings in this book, I just thought the story felt pretty underwhelming. While I was reading it, I just felt very disconnected from the story and I wasn't invested in it at all. The story didn't have a lot of the tension and suspense that I was expecting in a YA horror novel. Another thing that I didn't like about this book is that the killer was revealed very early on in the story. Personally, I like the whole big reveal thing where things are revealed at the end, and so I just didn't like the way that the killer was revealed in the story. I felt like since the killer was revealed so early on in the story, the very little suspense that the story had completely disappeared. The characters fell flat for me, but I do like the diverse aspects of the characters. The main character is biracial. She's half African American and half Native Hawaiian. There's also a side character who is Makani's best friend, and he is a trans boy. But overall, I just wasn't a fan of the story, and I ended up rating this book a 2 out of 5 stars. The last book that I want to talk about is a book that I didn't finish in December, but it was a book that I got through a good chunk of it before the year ended, and that book is A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. I actually started this book while I was flying to Vietnam, but I didn't finish it or even continued it after I landed in Vietnam. This is the second book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. I'm about 57% through this book, so I definitely hope to finish this book soon. I'm not liking this book as much as I did with the first book. I feel like not a lot is happening in this book, and there's just so much build up to what is going to happen towards the second half of the book. I feel like the second half of the book will definitely be a lot better than the first half, and I look forward to that. Once I finish this book in January, I will share my thoughts in my January wrap-up. This is the end of my December book haul and wrap-up. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!